Good evening, everyone. I would like to begin the regular meeting for the Cumberland Fire District. Today is April 25th, and before we begin, I just want to let you know we're waiting for our presentation. The woman is doing the presentation for the auditing report, so we will go. We may go out of order on the agenda for this evening. Okay. If we could, during our moment of silence... Call to order first. Oh, sorry. Roll call and call to order. Commissioner Jones?
Jones here.
Commissioner Santoro?
Santoro, present.
Commissioner Archambault?
Archambault here.
Commissioner Hogan?
Hogan here.
Commissioner Champagne?
Here.
And Commissioner Scullin?
Here.
Commissioner Willett is here, so we have a full force. And Solicitor Morse?
I am here.
Is present. Thank you. All right, if during our moment of silence, if we could remember a fallen firefighter who was killed in the line of duty from New York City. His name is William Tolley. Could we stand for a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I feel like I'm in school. General announcements. Does the board have anything to say? Anyone? Anything to report? Chief?
Madam Chair and members of the Commission, I'm pleased to report, I don't know if you've seen the news today, the Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters has started a peer support group, and we have 3 members that have stepped forward, Gary Grenier, David Sinkmars, and Matthew Printer, who have stepped forward to offer their services in the peer support group. So I'm very proud of those guys for stepping up and recognizing the need for employee assistance in-house.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that, and I'm happy to hear that Cumberland firefighters are involved. Very pleased about that. Also, I just wanted to kind of lay out what's coming up in May for everyone on the board. We'll be going into our budget time, and it's during this time we will be reading the budget, we will be listening to public input, and voting on the budget. So I believe we have some dates tentatively scheduled in May. Diane, did you want to, because I'd have to dig out my phone.
Yes, we've tentatively, and just discussed this afternoon, May 16th, which will be public hearing and for public input only, correct?
Yes.
May 23rd will be our first vote, which is our regularly scheduled meeting.
Second public hearing.
And the second public hearing?
Yes. You're going to have, so May 16th will be your first public hearing, no vote. May 23rd will be a second public hearing, first vote.
Okay, and third and second vote will be on May 25th.
Okay.
Have a correction, please. Did I hear May 15th and
16th.
16.
And then
16th was the first hearing? Second hearing and first vote's the 23rd, and when's the
25th.
25th?
And then, Diane, when do you expect to get the budget to the members?
If we have May 8th, should be good. I believe that's a Monday. I'm just trying to think.
Right, so that would give about 10 days for the Finance Committee to do anything it wants to, review, have meetings
Correct.
prior to the 16th.
Excuse me. Is that, Mr. Chairman, Champagne, you comfortable with that arrangement? Getting the budget 8 days before for your committee? I'm out of town. I'll be in Vegas from 15th till 19th for my job is sending me off to a conference to be retaught how to reteach. I've been on that trip for 6 months. So I'll miss the first hearing of this, I guess it's a full board. But Mr. Champagne, you're the chairman of the Finance Committee, and I want to know your opinion, what you think about the timing of all this and how it's going down.
My opinion at this point is that these are the first dates I've heard. Nothing's been asked of me of my opinion at this point in time.
I've known these dates for, what, 3 or 4 weeks?
I had sent out an email a little while ago, and my first email said 16th, 18th, and 23rd. I have amended that after some discussions to see when everybody's available to the 16th, the 23rd, and the 25th.
Okay.
So-
I mean, I think the chair of the Finance Committee needs to know these. I mean, I'm not saying Ron didn't get notified, but, you know, I'd like to ask, I guess, the solicitor, the order of how this is progressing. The recent couple of weeks, I've had a chance to sit down with the chief for a little while, and, you know, we had a meeting set for last Friday of Mr. Champagne's committee I was going to be at, but he still could have the meeting. Got canceled, but I want to know the order of who sets the budget, who approves it, and then when does it go before this full committee, and then when does it go to public? So, Madam Solicitor?
Yeah, so what I did was I looked at the charter, which explains how many hearings you have to have, which is 2. We do. It's a legislative charter established by the General Assembly. You call that a charter? That is our charter. It's the enabling legislation.
That's what it is. It's not a charter. The bylaw is still pending.
It's not the bylaws.
It's actually a legislative charter. I mean, you can disagree with me, but that's what it is.
I read it.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So
Verbatim.
when you don't have a home rule charter, which is a charter established by a town, your charter is through the General Assembly. So our charter was enacted by a public law, and that charter requires us to have 2 budget hearings. It was clearly modeled after the town's budget process, so I also looked at the town's budget process. The staff, or the mayor's, you know, the executive branch, gets their budget to the council by May 8th. It's the second Monday in May. So, again, trying to kind of model, this is our first, well, it's our second budget, trying to establish a process, and you don't have bylaws yet. So we need to have staff put together a budget that they feel comfortable with, which will then come to the full committee, and the finance subcommittee reviews it, makes any adjustments that makes recommended adjustments, and then it comes to the full committee for 2 public hearings.
So you're saying executive, finance subcommittee, full committee, including public hearing all at once. The chief, Diane, to Ron's committee.
Yep.
Okay. And then the full committee with the public hearing on the 16th.
Well, starting on the 16th, you'll
Yeah.
have 2 public hearings.
16, 23, 25.
Right. So now, when we meet with the bylaws subcommittee, that was going to be my recommendation for process going forward anyway, because I think it's important for the people, like I said, in the trenches to be preparing the initial budget. They know what to expect next year, what's going to be reduced, what's going to be increased. Diane, I know, is working with the tax assessor in Cumberland right now to find out what the valuation is going to be, which I believe you haven't received and you don't expect to receive until next week.
Right. I don't have that yet.
No. The tax assessment, which is different than the tax rate. That hasn't been done by the vision yet.
I need the assessed values, and then we have to determine all our exemptions.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I need the assessed values. I need a copy of our tax roll.
Okay.
And
Apparently,
then-
from what I understand from my neighbors and people in town, it's a pretty small town, so I hear things. My own taxes included. Tax bills are going out.
They are for the town, but they're on an unsynchronized, we're not unsynchronized, so we set the tax rate at the same time that you set the budget for next year. The town actually set the tax rate for last year
Plus 4%.
Just now, and they're sending out tax bills. We cannot send out tax bills until after the budget is set.
I understand. Just want to make sure that the chairman of the finance committee is in agreement with this process.
Well, let me just state this. My understanding, the chief's working proposed budget should come to the finance subcommittee. First.
Right.
And then it was going to come, then we would recommend at the 16th and 18th of May to the public hearing. And then on the 23rd of May, there would be a vote on the 16th or the 18th, then a vote on the 23rd. Because you can have a vote at the second public hearing, and then a vote on the 23rd. But that is my opinion. That opinion doesn't stand. So at this point is that the finance subcommittee is going to get, to my understanding, is going to get documents on the 16th at the same time the
No.
public will be getting
No.
them.
No. you're
I
getting-
don't agree with that. I'm not going to argue here.
But that's not what's gonna
I'm not going to
No, that's
debate
not-
this. This has been an issue for the last week or so, and I don't want to debate it. Whatever the process that the solicitor has determined, based on what the chair wants, then we'll have to live with it.
Well,
I don't.
when-
No, I don't.
I
Madam
need to
Solicitor, I don't want to
respond.
get into
No, I'm
a
not-
debate
I'm not
about it.
gonna
I know, I
debate.
want to respond.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
no, I want to respond. No, you're getting
Right.
it on the 8th.
The full board is.
So the subcommittee can meet.
So where's this say the 8th? Right now.
Diane,
We just proposed the 8th.
we just proposed the 8th.
Did anybody hear the 8th? Yeah. I didn't hear the 8th.
Yeah, Diane,
I agree with you 100%. Unless you want to get rid of the whole finance subcommittee, we're just basically making his committee inept and taking any role of the subcommittee.
okay,
We have 8
stop 1
days.
second, please.
Oh, hold on. No, I'm not a school child, so let me finish my
Don't
sentence.
hold your hand,
You
don't
just
hold
did it
your
to me,
hand up to
so
my, don't hold your hand up to my face.
I'm nowhere near you. I'm 8 feet away. Let's relax, okay? Cutting out the responsibility of the subcommittee and cutting out any ability of Mr. Champagne's committee to work effectively, I feel is inappropriate, okay? Now,
All right, now
giving
it's
him
my turn.
10 days before, I asked him a question, 8 days, if we have 8 days before, will that be enough time to meet as a finance subcommittee? That's my question. A single question.
First of all,
Instead of going off on tangents.
stop talking, please. First of all, you need to apologize for that right now. I am not a president.
It's not going to happen. So sanction me. Send me home. I'm not a school child. Talk to us, treat us all with respect. Because what's happened last week is not respectful. Mr. Champagne alluded to it, and I'll say it out loud.
Okay. First of all, you cannot have a subcommittee meet when a budget or a worksheet is not ready. The finance chair and the chief have been working diligently to prepare a budget. This is our first year in a quarterly payment cycle, and it has not been an easy task to anticipate payments, dealing with people who are not paying their taxes, and setting up for fiscal year 18. Therefore, it didn't seem to be a good idea to have a subcommittee meet with a document that wasn't prepared. It is my understanding, though, that the chief spent a number of moments and met with Commissioner Santoro and Commissioner Archambault to go over the process of getting the budget prepared. What the finance commissioner just said, the finance chair just said, is that we will have a document available on May 8th. Commissioner Champagne, right now, could set a meeting following the rules of public hearing laws, which we are abiding by, on May 8th, because everybody will have the document.
Madam Chairman, can I just ask you to tone it down? Because now you're starting to yell at us,
I'm sorry.
like we're a bunch of school children. We have a different opinions, and we should respect one another. You shouldn't be hollering at us, please.
I'm not hollering
Please.
at you, and I will...
Yes, you are.
I'm not hollering at you.
But you're hollering at
I
all
will
of
lower
us.
my voice.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Champagne can have a meeting on May 8th with the Finance Subcommittee to review the document, and then they can make proposals or changes as needed, and then we can have an adjusted document after that. I am sorry that Commissioner Champagne was unable to have his meeting on Friday. But my concern is not just for the subcommittee meeting. My concern is that it would not make any sense in a public meeting to have a document that really needed major changes or minor changes, and that document be public. Because it is not the subcommittee that would feel the pressure from the town. It would be the fire committee, and it would be the finance chairperson. Finance director, sorry, finance director. That would be my concern, because we have seen instances in which finance directors are slandered in newspapers because of mistakes that are made. And we want the document to be in such a state so that the Cumberland Fire Department would feel confident that this would be a document to really begin to look at.
May I speak?
Yes.
Excellent. Myself and Mr. Archambault had a chance to meet the chief an hour apiece individually to avoid breaking any Open Meetings Act's laws. I have to respectfully disagree that this document was the review of the process as opposed to an evidence of the chief's hard work and Mr. Champagne's hard work. The document I spent an hour reviewing with the chief appeared to me to be a finalized, well thought out, well analyzed budget proposal. I'm going to ask Mr. Archambault of his opinion when he met with the chief of that process as well. We haven't discussed any of this at all. I walked out, he walked in. Mr. Archambault?
Well, we got a revised proposal came. So the proposal that we looked at wasn't the final draft. So what the chief was showing us was just what he thought we could do with it, but it wasn't the final proposal.
And if I may, I can tell you that it's changed 7 times since that initial proposal. 3 times today alone.
Correct, Chief.
Because of options that we've exercised that we overlooked the first times we were looking at the budget, appropriations that we can use that are allowed by the Department of Revenue, and we still don't have the assessed value from the town. So we can give you a budget, and you can ask us, what does that mean for a tax rate? And we can't tell you yet. So to completely do a budget, we need all aspects of everything.
But let me clarify one thing to the board. the chief, myself, and Diane met 4 or 5 weeks ago. We had discussion. It was agreed upon that we would return in a week. That never occurred. The preliminary numbers that the chief has is for us, the subcommittee, is a workshop. And it was on expenditures, not what the tax roll is and what the levy is at this point. It was just a workshop on the expenditure side. That was the intent of this meeting. That didn't get off the ground. Not to look at a whole budget, look at a proposed budget. It was to show the commissioners or the subcommittee, this is where we are, is every month we get it. We know what it is tonight, year to date, what the expenditures are. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to project it out for 12 months. The chief has certain requirements that he needs to fulfill for equipment and whatnot, and it was going to be a discussion in a workshop. It got blown way out of proportion, and I have my theories why. I'm not going to say that here, but I know what happened. Because when I left the chief, and it was agreed upon that the chief would meet independently with 2 new people on the board, the 2 subcommittee members who have never been through this process, to give them some information as how the process is going to go about. So they wouldn't be walking into a meeting, a workshop, green.
May I respond to that?
So, I mean, we could sit here all night and debate this thing, but that was my intent. It didn't happen. Let's just move forward.
May I say something? I would just like it put on the record. The chief and I worked on this budget until we left Thursday. And we both looked at each other and I said, is this the best it's going to be? And I contemplated the whole entire night over this budget that I knew was not accurate. None of these numbers, many of these numbers, I should say, were not accurate. We needed more research, we needed more work, we needed more time. I came in Friday morning at 7, I reviewed it again, and I went and saw the chief and I said, I need to make a decision. We cannot make this a public document. It's too far off from being accurate. And I had the chief's support, and I sent an email to the finance subcommittee. I never did hear back from Ron. Ron immediately called the chief. Nobody called me. But this was the reason that I canceled this meeting, the only reason. That I did not want a document to be public that was so far from being accurate. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized we cannot use this as a worksheet. It's just too far off.
Excuse me, Diane. You didn't get a phone call from me, but how many emails?
I'm sorry. No, all right, I apologize. You did respond. I'm sorry.
Like 3 or 4, we exchanged emails. I mean,
but I did not hear from the chairperson of the finance committee.
I think you do a fantastic job. I think you're trying to do the best you can in a situation that Ron does not want to talk about in public. And I think we'll address this along the lines of the rest of the year, 2 years. You're doing a great job. You had a good budget, a proposal. Ron wanted us to meet. It's a working, these are living things. They change every day. Last year's budget has been changed how many times? You can't anticipate in a fire department district what's going to happen. Making it public versus keeping it non-public, that's my question. What's the big deal?
I do believe that
Because
when...
it would affect our credibility
Right.
if we were so far off in the numbers. And being the second year in a budget, yes, credibility. Because we are the leaders of this department, and we report to the Department of Revenue besides reporting to you. And the Department of Revenue has a very keen, close eye on our operations so that we don't, in effect, become another dysfunctional fire district. Diana and I are very cognizant of that. We're very much aware of where we need to be with a document that involves finances. And when we present a document that will be released to the public, we want it to be as accurate as we deem possible. And if you don't think my credibility is worth being very articulate with the document, I'm sorry for that, but I value our credibility.
Chief, as Mr. Champagne said, we need to relax. No one's questioning your credibility, Diane's credibility, or our district's financial processes credibility.
Fine, then give us to May 8th so that we can do it correctly.
The problem I have is the way this went down, and Mr. Champagne is being very kind and professional, and I'll do the same. The way this happened cannot happen again in the future. Let's end it and move forward. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Approval of minutes.
Yes. Our next item on the agenda is the approval from minutes from 3/30/2017.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Santoro. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hogan. Any discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved, 7-0. Communications. Any communications? Nope. Okay. New business. We have a presentation regarding our audit report from Parmalee Poirier and Associates. So if you would...
Introduce Joanne Newton from Parmalee Poirier.
Thank you. Joanne,
Here, if it doesn't matter. You can speak.
you can stay right there.
Okay.
Just move the microphone up so that everybody can hear you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I just would, first of all, like to thank the chief and Diane and their staff for the cooperation and collaboration that we had during the audit, which of course always makes things go a little smoother. It was a big difference from the first year being here with the 4 distinct stations to having one. I think they, not me, they have made great strides in moving it forward, and hopefully the next year will even be better. I guess what I would like to draw everyone's attention to, which I think is a very important page, is the fund financial statements, which is on,
She just got introduced. Could you reintroduce yourself, please? I'm sorry.
Joanne Newton,
From?
Parmalee Poirier and Associates,
Thank you.
okay? We're a public accounting firm, a peer-reviewed firm in Warwick. The day-to-day operations really manages out of the page 12, which is the changes in the fund balance, which goes over your property taxes, your earnings, and all your expenses. And as you can tell by page 12, there was excess of revenues over expenditures about midway down the page of $134,416 in the general fund. So that tells me that for the first year with all 4 stations coming together, we were in the positive. We did have a gain on a sale of assets for $20,000, and that may not occur every year, so I'm not even considering this. But moving forward, we did have a gain of $134,416. There was nothing in there that would deem to be unusual or extraordinary, that those numbers wouldn't hold water. Last year you did pay off the truck loan, and you don't have any other debt that you're carrying on the books that I know of, not unless there's been some continuing debt. So on paper, it looks as though the 4 stations coming together, there was some efficiencies in the expenditures, and it looks like with someone giving constant attention to the financials, because with the 4, one person kind of did it as a part-time job, and then some person working here and one person working here. It looks like it is a success on paper. Maybe there's still some growing pains with the change in the commissioners and doing it all at one location, but on paper it did show an excess of revenue, which is not happening in a lot of government places. So that there's a lot to be proud of there. When you go to the full fund statement, which is the one before this statement, it's on page 9 and 10. That statement brings in things that normally are not considered on the day-to-day operations of the district. It considers in pension liability, which is a very large number. And the way the GASB or the government accounting works, it's as if the district stops today and you put every penny that you would ever have to pay for pension on the report today. That's just the way the statement runs. It's been recently changed. Is that really there's debate if that's really what the user really needs to know. Because what is the chances of this it's going to end right here, and then you're going to have to pay out everything right at once. But we follow the GASB, and that's what they want on it, so that's what we put on it. So that's why if you look at your liabilities after 1 year, it's like $9 million. You know, page 9? If you look at the long-term liabilities, like that $9 million, there's a summary of that later in the document. So that's, it brings everything together. It brings all of the capital assets. It's another thing you really don't keep track of during the course of the year. But I feel as though for managing day-to-day, pages 11 and 12 are more meaningful for the day-to-day management of the district. The notes, which start on page 14, they're really, most of them are required by the auditing standards, government standards, and we just tell you different information that we think is important about the statements. It goes on to explain the statements, explain receivables and capital assets, pensions. Most of it, I don't want to say is boilerplate language, but a lot of it is boilerplate language. There is, on note 3, there's an analysis that tries to take you from the government funds to the statement of net position and tell you what the changes are. So basically you'll see we put on $1.2 million worth of capital assets, which is the cost of assets and the accumulated depreciation. Again, they're not on your fund balance, but they're on the statement of net position. So this page 20 is like numbers of a reconciliation from one statement to the other statement and why they're so different. And again, most of this again is required by the standards. As we continue, we have some summaries of capital assets, whether it's land, building, furniture, vehicles. And when we get into this year, you'll have a comparison of 2 years. Since this was only a 1-year statement, you just have information for 1 year. Next year, you have a side-by-side comparison on some of these notes, which will make the information more meaningful. Well, why did this go up? Why did this go down? If you look at the long-term liabilities, you have no real liabilities per se. You have accrued compensations, the pension liability, and post-employment. So you don't have any debt. Liability, what you normally think of would be notes payable and a credit. You don't have any of that other than the truck loan, which has been satisfied. We did have a little, I wouldn't say a problem, we did have to do a little bit more work on the post-employment benefits because the district coming together did not go out and get an actuarial report for those benefits. So that's something that we spoke to Diane. She may want to consider, talking to other districts, or we can recommend people who do that kind of work. Normally you would get that done every 2 years. So you'll know what people are owed when they leave here. It's mostly health insurance and dental insurance. But that's handled by the actuary. They have the actuarial assumptions that they use. We really look at those assumptions and make sure they make sense. We make sure that the number looks reasonable, but we don't prepare them. In this case, we assisted Diane, and she made the end decision, but we did assist her in doing some of the prep work. Again, they had never done it in the past. When the four came together, Tom Bruce had done something last year with the hopes that he would get an actuarial this past year, but he never had returned back to work. So,
Can I respond?
oh, sure.
Just one comment. When we met with the Auditor General, we did discuss it is health benefits for retirees. Because there are, I believe it's 8, there are only 8, and it's a diminishing number every year because the health benefits change over to Medicare at some point. They said that they felt it was not necessary that we hire an actuary for these costs, so.
And that's fine. We will just continue to work with Diane if she needs that. We've now set up a template, so you can just continue to use the template, and if we need any help, we'll gladly assist her. I don't know if anyone would like me to continue through these pension notes, which are very tedious, big numbers, and they give you a lot of information about who is covered, who's not covered, the age that they cover this, other benefits. Now that you've moved on to the state plan, it's all run by, we get all this information from the state of Rhode Island. And then they'll tell you what the pension investments are and what their long-term expected rate of return. So there was a lot of information here. Sometimes I don't know if people really get past the number piece. And then there's changes in pension liability. Why were the changes? Was it that the funds didn't make money, more people came on the plan, or people came off the plan, and that's all in these tables here. And of course we have 4 tables because we're maintaining the funds in 4 different groups to represent the 4 different stations. So that is kind of still around, and it wouldn't make any sense to bring them all together. I think we probably easier this way. Is there any questions that someone had on something?
Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner?
Joanne, nice to see you again.
Hi.
Just want to go back to page 9, just so,
9?
yeah,
Can you see okay again?
the long-term liabilities.
Can you see
Yep.
okay? You want me to move the podium? You good?
That $9 million.
That's, okay, I can show you what the details of that is.
Oh, no, I just,
Yeah.
but basically, that's always going to be there.
Yes.
That's just the way it's a
That's
long-term
just
until,
not,
right.
I will say this, if the rules change, if the GASB changes the rules, the government ordinance changes the rules,
Oh, yeah, if they
that
change
number will
the
change.
contribution rates or whatever.
Right.
that
If,
can change. Basically, that's just a number that's there.
if for
until-
some reason you decide things are great here and we only need half the firemen that we have, firefighters that we have.
Don't go there, though.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
not suggesting that. I'm just saying, technology comes along and you can do all these different, maybe it will go down, but no. That's why I say, for the most part, it's a huge number that you really aren't going to pay out tomorrow, but that's the way
But
it
it
goes.
doesn't show that we're behind in any of
No, not at all,
We're
not at
completely
all,
up to
no.
date, that's just something that's
Yeah, it's always going to be there.
an ongoing payment, and we're always going to be at the same
And
ballpark.
I draw it to people's attention because, again, and I'm an accountant, but when I think of a long-term liability, I think of debt. That you have a line of credit, you have a mortgage, you have an auto loan or equipment loan. What we have here is accrued compensation, so if people are owed their vacation at the end of the year or sick time, that goes in there, the pension goes in there. You're not looking at debt. You're not looking at a $9 million that next year is going to be $8 million. Chances are it's going to be $10 million. Because you're right, we are seeing peaks and valleys, but at some point it has to smooth out. And that's just a product of what's going on in the economy and the market investments and the calculations by the actuaries.
And the bad hedge funds. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome. One other thing I will draw to your attention, not that I want to go back to your other discussion, but there is a page in here, just so you're aware, that takes the budget and compares it to the actual. And then you do have to respond, which we do routinely, about any variances. So that is here on page 42. But that would only be for your final budget that's approved by the commissioners. It wouldn't be for, things go on. But that is a budget to actual page.
Commissioner Santoro?
I don't have the actual, I couldn't find where the revenue passed to get what your task was in this audit. What was the, Was there, when we hired this company, I couldn't find where,
The resolution,
the resolution, I could not find that.
that would
To
have
find out.
been in, I believe, 2015, and it was a 3-year.
A 3-year bid.
I've seen it recently, I'd have to look for it, but there is a resolution approving
Yeah.
their contract.
Yes, so it's pretty vague in what the expectations were. I saw the 3-year contract with the payment fee, heavy upfront,
This
followed by 2
actually,
small.
we responded to a proposal, so maybe the resolution was vague, but there was a proposal sent out, and you had to respond to the proposal, which listed all the specifications, which was approved by the Auditor General. So we responded, and I'm sure others did.
What does the proposal say?
Oh, the proposal is about 20 pages long.
So my question is, how much do they pay overall? 54,000?
Oh, the first year was different, yeah.
First year was 4 audits.
Yeah, it was 4 audits.
Yeah, so, you know, when I look at this summary, and I'm not an accountant,
What are you calling the summary?
I'm on page 1 and 2.
That's the MD&A, which was prepared by Diane and her staff.
I'm looking at one that says signed by Parmalee, Poirier.
Oh, you're looking at the opinion.
1 and 2.
Yep, okay.
And it's kind of disheartening when the last paragraph, it just basically says that we're not going to give an opinion, and you can't hold us to it. And I feel that an audit should at least give us an opinion of the health status of the combined.
Where are you looking?
Page 2, the last paragraph.
Yeah, what it's referring to is the introduction, which is the MD&A section, and the statisticals. We look them over to make sure they look reasonable, but they're prepared by the client. What we say is the opinion on page 1. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Cumberland Fire District as of June 30th, 2016. So our
Understood.
opinion is on page 1.
Yep. So I read that, understood. You don't give an opinion of the health status of this district compared to other districts. It's hold on a minute. You looked at one spot in time, and it seems to me, reported instead of, I can report, this is a phone. Diane does a great job. Reporting that Diane is doing a great job is wonderful, but you were hired to audit what Diane does. Is your opinion that our finance department and our status of the district's financial standing is good? AAA, 4A, 2A?
We weren't asked to provide that information. We were asked to audit the financial numbers with a certain amount of accuracy based upon our own materiality and our own risk assessment.
Right.
So what we're saying is based upon that balance sheet and that income statement. And traditionally, the balance sheet happens, it has to happen at a place in time because you have to stop. You have to stop and say this is a place. It happens at your year end. And then the income statement takes in the whole year because that is something that will stop annually. So if you look, the balance sheet is as of one day of June 30th, 2016, and it's done deliberately on all kind of corporations, governments, not-for-profits, Ford, lifespan. So it happens at a day and time, normally the year-end day, and then the income statement is for the whole year's worth of activity.
I understand. So my question is, do we need to specify better what we want the auditing firm to do? Just basically, any one of us can go through Diane's numbers. I do it every 3 weeks, and the numbers match up. We're paying $55,000 to say Diane's math is good. She's doing a great job.
We didn't do math. We went to the source document.
Okay, well, Diane uses source documents to come up to her numbers. I want more than this. We don't give an opinion. I expect the taxpayers of this town want more than
You
that.
don't have an opinion. You have an opinion. That's the standard opinion. If you would like to have additional agreed upon procedures, we will gladly do them. But this is the standard.
You could do what?
We can do additional, you can ask us to do additional procedures beyond what we do, but we follow the accounting standards And the accounting standards dictate what the opinion says, and this is the best opinion that you could have. There are other opinions that say except for, and we could not do, we had to stop the audit, so therefore you have an adverse opinion. But this is the opinion that says, in our opinion, the financial statements above present fairly in all material respects. And I know you can look at Diane's stuff, but are you going to do the same thing to cash that I do to cash? Because you're probably going to look at cash and say it agrees to the bank statement. Am I correct?
No.
What are you going to do?
I'll sit down with Diane for a meeting and talk about it and go into where the statements are. Every month we get a detailed print of a checking account.
Right, but I'm going to look at that. I'm going to compare it to the bank. We actually have to go online and see it at the bank. We have to look at everything with a little bit of skepticism. We have to look through the outstanding checks and make sure that were the checks held at year end that really belong in payables. And you can tell that if you look at when the checks clear.
Well, what I want
and
to
look at deposits.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I understand what you're saying. What I really want to know is, and I've seen some auditing reports in the past that have a depreciation of assets figured into the audit. We have fire trucks, we have buildings, they have set values, and the auditor comes in and says, listen, within 5 years, you're going to need a new building. It's going to cost X amount of money. Your assets are going to depreciate by a percentage. Your fire trucks are currently worth Y. In 5 years, they'll be worth Y minus this percentage point. And I opine that you may want to address this in your income sources in the future. That, to me, would be very valuable for an accounting firm with municipal fire department experience, different than my business I ran, different than regular. I'm talking about a district, fire district. A very specific type of audit, okay? And this is what we need to know. Are we going in the right direction? Are we allocating our assets appropriately? Are we not setting our tax rate high enough? Are we too low? These are the things I expected to get for $55,000.
Well, first of all, that $55,000 was not this year, it was last year, and it had to do with combining 4 separate statements that had never been audited, so we were doing 8 audits, because you had to audit the beginning numbers and the ending numbers in order to opine on the income statement. So in essence, we did 8 different audits for $55,000. 2 for each district, the beginning of the year and the end of the year, because if I don't do the beginning of the year, then I don't know that what flows into the income statement is accurate. So it was 8 audits. There was four reports, but there was 8 audits because we had an audit of the opening balance sheet. That was not this year, that was last year. This audit was for $15,000. In any case, it's all a lot of money, and I can appreciate that. If you want those kind of additional things, we will gladly provide those kind of things for you. What happens here is when you're ready to go to bid, you have to do a bid schedule, meet with the Auditor General, and they decide what?
They decide.
They decide what's going to be in the bid schedule. I don't decide. They decide that we're going to do an audit under what rules. They decide how long you have to do the audit. They make all those decisions, and we respond to that.
Who decides? The state?
The
Auditor General.
All right, great. So how do we get the additional things we just discussed added to a report? You said you could do them. Can you? And it would cost more? Is that part of?
It would. We can do them. You can tell me what you'd like, and we can make that assessment if that's something that we could do.
It just seems.
But yes, it would be an extra because it's not what the Auditor General is asking on any of the fire districts. This isn't the only one that we do. They're not asking that information on anybody's.
Is there some type of document or how do we know what you're being asked to do?
You provided the document to me.
I thought the Auditor General did in the state.
The Auditor General, they approved. I can. Yeah, I have a copy of the proposal.
What's the proposal of the audit?
Of the audit services.
Of the audit service.
Approved by the Auditor General and
Approved
suggested.
Or instructed?
Suggested and then approved.
Okay.
You initially meet with him, am I correct?
Correct.
They initially meet, the Auditor General has I wouldn't say a wish list, it's requirements. You can put
Right,
other
they
stuff
have
in
certain
there.
requirements.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, there's minimum requirements, but I think you're being paid
I'm not,
substantial amount of money. Diane, you do a great job. What you gave us, Diane, every month, I look at every month and say it's fantastic, and I don't see a whole lot more from the audit.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm
What I really
not
wanna
sure
know
what
is-
additional information you want, because we will provide anything you need.
So when other cities and towns in the state have an audit of their finances, someone, a third party who's independent, comes in and takes a look. Process is okay? Yes. Numbers match up? No. Or yes. Is there a healthy status, our tax bond rating in the town? That process is evaluated. Is this fire district at a point where we need to start shifting away from fixing old fire trucks, depreciations, versus fixing buildings versus purchasing? I mean, an opinion from a financial advisor, an accountant, to me, is what this audit should do.
But we're auditing your financial statements. Now you're asking me to audit your management decisions. I'm not
asking that.
Yes, you are, because you're asking whether you should lease or whether you should buy. If you pose that question, I can
I'm
give
talking
you
about
an
based on the
answer to that.
economy, based
We
on the
find
global
out
economy.
But that's not part of the financial information that we're opining on. We can answer that question. We'll do whatever procedures we think are right to do it, but that's not part of the standards that we're required to operate under. In other words, it tells you will put out an income statement, you will put out a balance sheet, you will put out notes, you will put out analysis.
I think the issue is, what was the scope of work? That's the bottom. We can sit here all night and go back and forth. What your opinion is, what her opinion is, she's saying she did what the scope of work is. We need to provide you with a copy of the scope of work. If you're not happy with it, then next year's auditors, whoever they may be, this is what we're going to put in there.
Correct.
That's the problem at this point.
But they want a 3-year contract already. They want a year 1 of a 3-year contract,
No,
right?
No, we're on year 2.
we're on year 2.
This was
So
year
they want
2.
year 2 of a 3-year
So you have one
contract.
more year.
1 more year. All right.
And we put out an engagement letter, and the engagement letter says exactly what is going to happen. It's 4 or 5 pages long. And again, if you want additional services, Diane can talk to us, or we can talk to you, whatever. And like I said, this is the report.
Maybe the finance subcommittee can go over this.
Well, I think, are we bound in year 3? Is this so in year 3, if this board's not happy, and we put a scope of work out that includes more work, and they can bid on it, and whoever can bid on it, and then we'll have to select and interview those people and select the company that we want to do it. Now, moving forward for a moment, if I may, Diane and the chief have worked very hard to try and get accurate numbers, but Diane and the chief, I both have a question for you. Are you guys satisfied with what you see in this report?
Absolutely.
There is no errors or mistakes or things that need to be corrected? Because
No.
I'm looking here, just as one item on page 42. Clothing allowance, $500 is budgeted, and we spent $46,900 and some odd dollars. I don't know what we got a line item of $500 for clothing allowance.
I'm sorry, Ron, I can't understand you. Can you
Page
repeat
42,
that? Right,
expenditures,
okay.
clothing allowance, budgeted $500. We spent $46,941. Makes no sense. Unless someone can give me an explanation of that.
I don't know. I will have to look it up.
So I'm just saying is that appears in my book, there's an error, and I wonder how many other errors are in here, if we look a little closer.
So it should be 50,000, you think?
I don't know, but it's saying 500, it's saying we spent we spent $46,941 per man?
No.
For the whole, yeah, it doesn't say that. We budgeted 500, we spent 46,941, we overspent by $46,441. That's incorrect, so I'm saying how many other issues that are in here that need to be gone over?
I did go through all the numbers when I got the audit report back, and it does look like it's an error, and I missed it.
Well,
Because I needed
I'm
to
not putting
approve all
blame
this
on you, Di. Please, don't take that.
Well, I do go over all of this before it becomes final, so
We don't create the budget, we would have gotten this information from Diane. So, I mean, it is possible, but...
I'm not trying to blame Diane, I'm just
No, I'm not trying to blame anybody, there's no blame here.
No, you picked out an error.
I'm picking out an error. I'm only saying that
But we-
there has been some talk that there's other errors in here, and I'm not prepared to sit down and talk about those tonight. But there has been pointed out to me, or stated to me, that there's been some errors. I don't know what they are right now, but I haven't sat down with the people that are involved in that, but here or there. That's just one that just stuck out and jumped out in front of me.
Yes, Solicitor.
Sorry. So when this is a final audit, if there are errors, if we wanted to kind of hold this over until next month, can it be changed?
We would have to restate the report and reissue it.
Okay, so I'm just going to suggest that over the next month, or whatever time you want, look through it, and if people see errors, she'll change them, because you do want the correct audit. That's going to be posted on the website. We want the correct.
Well, yeah, $500 versus
I agree,
$46,000, that's
yes,
one
right.
out of how many others?
So I would just say, let's hold this open. I mean, you don't really approve an audit, because how could you reject it? It's the audit, it's a new, a
Right, we
third
can
party.
accept it, that's all we can do.
Right, so I would suggest that you just kind of hold this, and then if you want to give Diane your comments, she can relay them to Joanne, and give 30 days, Joanne, and then you can issue a revised or amended, restated audit report. If that's acceptable, I'm just making a suggestion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Scullin.
because we have the budget coming up, I would like to make a motion to table the audit review till our June meeting.
Okay.
Motion is seconded. Commissioner Santoro, did you second
Under
that?
discussion. It's a great idea, Jim. I think we should just postpone this audit at least for a month, maybe two.
Well, Joe, that way we get through our budget and
Yeah, get through our budget. It's a really good idea.
I don't
Very
have a problem
thoughtful.
with that. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor of tabling this item for another month, say aye.
no,
Oh, sorry, till June. Till the June meeting. Thank you. All in favor of tabling this audit report until the June meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will table this to the
I
June
would
meeting.
ask if there's any more questions now, though, in case Joanne doesn't come back.
Okay.
So
I mean, she has to come back.
I'm just making a suggestion.
Does anyone have any other questions for Joanne this evening? Okay. Moving on. Joanne has a question.
Okay, so you will all gather your questions through Diane?
Correct.
And then then I'll still communicate with Diane and get back with Diane? Or is there the expectation that I come back to the June meeting?
Come back. We're paying you a lot of money. I'd like to talk to you face to face.
So
That's my opinion. I'll make a motion if you want.
I think that let's take a look and see what happens. We have 2 months to
fine.
do that.
You just give me the date and I'll put it on. Thank the chief and Diane for all their hard work.
Thank you, Joanne, for coming in.
No problem.
Okay, moving on. Chief's report? Sorry, finance report. Joanne? Thank you. Diane, finance report?
We are approaching the end of the budget year. There's a small possibility we may have to dig into some of our reserve funds temporarily because we are still awaiting for fourth quarter taxes that are unpaid, and we have some people that are on tax sale list, although we have collected quite a bit of that money just through the 90-day notices. But I ran another report as of today, and we're still looking at close to $200,000 in people that still, and that's probably just the amount that would get us through the end of the year, since we haven't really established reserve accounts yet. But other than that, everything seems to be going on track, and we're just keeping a close eye on the cash flow. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Santoro.
Diane, on 3/30/2017, check it, I can't see. I'm looking at the fire prevention, 61,500 minus.
The transfer of funds?
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes. If you look at the balance, at the income and expenses and the budget, there's a line item.
Yep.
It says fire prevention offset, I believe. Sorry, I'm looking for the line. Fire prevention reimbursement 4110.5.
Okay.
That was part of last year's budget, and we moved that into our operating account to help to pay for fire prevention admin person and her healthcare costs.
What's that again? There's fire admin personnel and what? Just
For the
other-
fire prevention
The office itself?
specialist for Kerry, and her job is
Okay.
mostly fire prevention, so we had budgeted some money for that through fire prevention funds.
Okay.
Anyone have any further questions? Is there a motion on the table?
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept the finance report? Second. By Commissioner Santoro, seconded by Commissioner Scullin.
And once again, Diane, fantastic job. The transparency is the best you can get.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Finance report's passed 7-0. Chief's report.
You have a copy of my report. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I will touch on a couple of highlights. The request for the gratis donation of land around Station 2 has moved through the Department of Transportation with the state of Rhode Island. 2 weeks ago, I met...
Excuse me, Chief, just 1 second. We do not have a copy of your report.
That would be my fault. I thought I put those all in there. You are correct, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
So, Diane, can you just send it to the members tomorrow morning?
I can.
So they have a copy of it?
I will.
So I'll touch on more highlights than I initially anticipated. During the month of March, we had 396 responses that were broken down. Basically, once again, 285 incidents were rescue and EMS related, 12 fires, 13 hazardous conditions. We've seen a spike in carbon monoxide. Towards the end of the heating season, it seemed like there were more failures, or there were more people cognizant of the CO2 detectors operating. So we've seen a little bit of a jump in our normal monthly responses. The letter of gratis donation for the land that was submitted to the Rhode Island Department of Transportation has been received. I did meet with 3 of the 6 representatives on the site at Station 2 to go over just what we were looking for in property. And we had it tentatively staked out so that they could actually have a visual of it. They understood the benefit, and they do not seem to have any reason why it would not move forward. There was a couple of questions, nothing insurmountable, like, one question was how we were going to terminate the end line because of the swale for the water runoff. They wanted to have either a guardrail or a catch fence so that liability would be minimized, which is no problem for us. We would do that anyway to protect our own selves from the liability. We did meet with the Department of Business Regulation and Administration, the chairwoman, the finance director, general counsel, and myself, to receive some direction, give the Department of Revenue an overview of where we were after 3 quarters, and that was a very productive, informative meeting. So we were given a path of travel for our next budget, which I outlined earlier. On May 10th, part of the Flammable Liquid Task Force is a trailer that was purchased through oil cleanup money through the state of Rhode Island, and because of the ethanol train that transfers through the town of Cumberland, we have one of those trailers in town. It's part of a 5-trailer task force, so we will be participating in a drill in East Providence at Motiva Tank Farm to get a use of the 5 trailers simultaneously. This drill is supplemented through the Rhode Island Emergency Management, so the callback costs for the day will be offset. The Highland Hills is progressing with building number 4, which is actually their 3rd building up there. That requires 3 days a week of site visits because of the quickness in which they move. They have a multitude of people, between 200 and 300 people a day in the building. So when they start to do production, they're ready. They come in with a whole slew of plumbers, pipe fitters for the sprinkler system, electricians, and for continuity of service, when they get their job done and fire coded and fire stopped, they want to be able to get a sign off so that they can start their wall boarding. So we've been participating in that 3 days a week. In the May 15th, I believe it is. I don't have the exact tentative date, I believe, is May 15th. With the City of Pawtucket Fire Department, I have been asked to assist them with an evacuation plan for one of their larger employers. My name was forwarded to them through my work with CVS facilities in town. I'm happy to report that the on-duty members were treated to a delicious dinner from the residents of Bear Hill Village on March 21st. This dinner came about from an initial meeting set up by Representative Marshall Kalski at the tenant's request. We made a presentation on residing safe, medical cards were distributed, we had conversation with the tenants and just a nice opening round in a village that we hadn't had contact in probably 5 or 6 years. For no fault of anybody's, we have to be invited in, and the Tenants Association had changed and it just kind of fell by the wayside. The new Tenants Association are happy to have us back in. So the command staff recently attended the New England Division of the International Association of Fire Chiefs at NFPA headquarters in Boston. And the topics of the day were cancer awareness, the preparations for prevention, and the details and findings of a wind-driven Boston fire. The afternoon itself was dedicated to the wind-driven fire and the conditions and the tactics that are needed when you have such a velocity of wind pushing your fire through. The morning was mostly on cancer awareness, preparation, the causes of the cancer from a study that was done through the Boston Fire Department with their physician. Payroll company interviews have been complete. We are going to move to a new payroll company July 1st. That changeover seems to be going very harmoniously. Right now, there don't seem to be any issues with that. Two big budget items that are up in the air are the Blue Cross costs, which we can't get until 30 days before the contract, and the fire station accident sickness liability coverage, which we've been in contact with VFIS, and they're doing a costing sheet for us for the coming year. I did contact one other insurance company. I'm not too happy with the slowness of the response, so their stock is diminishing. As I talked to other fire chiefs that have been approached by the same company and have had the same problems with getting any information from the company. The two assistance to firefighter grant proposals that we have, the ladder truck and the EMS equipment, are still tied up with the president's advisors checking for the validity of the grants. It's not just singling out us, the entire country is at a standstill, and frustration is mounting through senators and reps, because this is a lifeline that these senators and reps need for their communities. So this stall tactic is probably going to come to an end rather quickly, as we've seen some of the budget announcements in today's paper moving forward. Questions?
Chief, we spoke briefly about the EMS and the new protocols. I'm not sure which forum you want to talk about that in terms of deciding, how much difference in money to expend versus ALS and BLS, and the cost we discussed, very briefly about that. Is this the forum we should go over that?
Well, I can touch on it briefly. The Department of Health has issued a standard that advanced life support response vehicles need to carry an additional 16 drugs that we don't currently carry, along with the King intubation tubes, which are $85 a piece. They're one-time use only. The problem is that the intubation tubes, we can't do a hospital exchange. So each time we use them, we're buying a replacement for it. The drugs, we're still getting a cost factor. We're trying to put together a statewide bid on the cost. We're still trying to get relief from the Department of Health on the non-transport vehicles if we really need these drugs. Once all of those scenarios come into play, I'll have to make a decision then if it's going to be cost effective to go further with our ALS program, or if we're just going to step back and do a very good basic life support program. But those will be issues that will be forthcoming.
I have a question on that. If these drugs are on the trucks, wouldn't that mean that we would have paramedics? We would have to have paramedics manning the trucks?
No, the drugs can be used by the cardiac level technicians that we have.
All right.
There's a couple problems. One of the drugs that is mandated now is that highly sought after fentanyl.
Oh, good.
So
Yep.
I would have to put a double vault on each truck. It would have to be in a vault and then be locked inside that vault. So there's associated costs for the amount of time we're going to use it that I have to make a decision on.
The other issue is how often do the firefighters use these drugs and how often we have fantastic cardiacs, but how often are they actually using the skills to stay proficient with those,
It's a very good point.
Yeah. I think the new protocols are quite onerous. They're great for the paramedics, for the rescue vehicles, but for staffing and equipping 4 fire trucks. ALS is a great, program. Love to go there, but it's gonna hit the bottom line. It's gonna hit taxpayers in the pocket eventually. Those medications, I know, and I read the protocols, and they're expensive. They expire. Some don't last more than 1 year. And that locking system has to be a double lock, checked every day, and new red tags on 4 trucks signed off. If one vial of fentanyl goes missing, that's a problem. So.
What the state did is they kind of modeled after national protocols, where national protocols might have a 45 to 60-minute transfer time from scene to emergency room, where we could do 60 minutes from Cumberland to Westerly Hospital. Our transfer times are 15 to 18 minutes most of the time.
Right.
That wasn't taken into factor when they adopted the
The
national
national
protocols.
standards, right.
I just have one thing. What are the other towns doing? Other towns around us, like us? Is Lincoln, other towns like us, are they gonna go with the fire trucks, ALS, and the fire chief's talking about this?
We're all at a standstill right now, trying to get a meeting with the Director of Health, and we're having a little bit of pushback from some of the sub-directors, but we're trying to get a meeting with the Director of Health to explain our cause and explain our scenario and see if we can get relief. So we're in a holding pattern at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion on the table?
Motion to accept?
Motion to accept by Commissioner Santoro, second? Second. Okay. Commissioner Hogan, second. All in favor of accepting the chief's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay, next on the agenda is resolutions. And if I could just get to them. Yeah, thank you. Okay. This is Resolution Cumberland Fire District Resolution 2007-07, authorizing the Finance Director to pay Minutemen Trucks Incorporated an amount not to exceed $3,473.37. Whereas Minuteman Truck was contracted to make repairs to Engine 5, whereas all repairs have been made with the approval of the Chief. Now therefore be it resolved by the Cumberland Fire District as follows. The Finance Director is authorized to pay Minuteman Trucks an amount not to exceed $3,473.27. Is there discussion? Commissioner Santoro.
I think we need a motion first, a second, in discussion, or just discussion? Motion to accept.
If you have a question,
No, we're following Robert's rules of,
excuse
right?
me?
We're following Robert's rules?
Well, you can...
I make a motion. Someone second me? Thank you. Yeah, that's Robert's rules, right? Thank you. So discussion. My question is, most of these resolutions have the chief paying this bill. This one says the finance director. Why can't the chief, some of them say as we go through.
Well, I think some of them is manage and expend when they are items that are going to take a couple of payments because the chief is going to supervise what's happening. But generally, if it's just one payment, we say finance director.
It's the first one I've seen this way.
Okay.
I'd rather have, say, Chief Finley, myself. He's in charge of the vehicles, he's in charge of the fleet. No offense, Diane, it's not aimed at you. It's just wording. Every other item we've approved in terms of equipment, it's been resolved. The chief has cut the check. In the end, they get paid either way. Doesn't matter.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Scullin.
Commissioner Santoro, I think it's because the finance director cuts the check. The chief doesn't cut checks.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
Make a motion to accept.
Okay, thank you.
Now we have 4 motions.
Thank you. There is a motion on the table, and that was, Commissioner Ashenbaugh, did you make that motion?
I did.
And seconded by Commissioner Champagne. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that resolution passes 7-0.
This one should be the next.
Okay, yes. Next resolution, 2007-08. Resolution authorizing the finance director to pay Caffin Oil Company an amount not to exceed $6,568. Caffin Oil was contracted to replace the HVAC system at Station 1, whereas the current HVAC system needed replacement is 20 years old. Now therefore be it resolved that by the Cumberland Fire District as follows. Chief Finley is authorized to manage and expend funds as noted in the Caffin Oil proposal in an amount not to exceed $6,568. Motion on the table by Commissioner Champagne,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hogan. Is there a discussion?
Same question, in terms of the wording. On top it says,
I'm gonna take the credit for this. I was on vacation last week, and I did not have a chance to go through these carefully. What I would suggest is you change line 5 to a resolution authorizing Chief Kenneth Finley to manage and expend funds as noted in the Caffin Oil proposal in an amount not to exceed $6,568, replacing line 5.
Motion to approve the amendment by,
second.
seconded by Commissioner Jones. Motion to,
Wait.
all in favor, say aye.
There's discussion.
Aye. That's only amendment.
It's on the
On
amendment.
the amendment? Okay. Aye, on the amendment.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the amendment is passed. So the resolution will now read as what Solicitor Morris just stated, that Chief Finley will pay Caffin Oil. Is there a motion to accept the amended resolution?
No, that was a motion to amend the resolution.
That was a motion to amend, now we're accepting the resolution. Is there a motion to accept the amendment?
How about any discussion?
After the motion and the second.
We approved the amendment. Now we're back to the original.
Right, so she
Right.
asked for a
A
motion.
motion to accept the amended resolution.
Now we're in discussion, right?
Need a second.
We need a second.
Which was, there was a motion by me, second by Dana.
Okay, now discussion.
To amend it,
Right.
yeah.
Now there needs to be a motion. I just made a motion to accept
To accept,
the
right.
resolution
Yes.
as amended.
And I second it.
Yep,
Now, are we in discussion section?
yes.
Great, let's discuss. Anybody?
I have a question on, well, it's actually on two of these, the next one up too. Do we require a bid bond or performance bond on this major work, like roofing? That's just a question.
That's for the chief.
Chief? Commissioner
Chief,
Jones,
on
would
the
you repeat
bids,
that question?
You get, I don't know how the bidding process is, but you get like 3 bids for,
I tried to get 3 bids. On this one, I got 2 bids, and Caffin Oil was the lower of the 2 bids. Gas Doctor was the other one. I should have included it, and I failed to do that. Caffin, on an emergency last year, replaced the other half of the system. He's done work for us at a moment's notice throughout the winter in 3 of the other stations. I'm very satisfied with the performance and the response that they've given us.
So I guess the question, I'm saying, so I guess the question is there a bid process for getting these, what amount do you seek 2 or 3 bids, Chief?
Over 2,500 is what I've been using.
You've been using, and you get 3, pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah. Unless it's a vehicle repair, that,
Yeah, that's right.
I send the vehicle out to be repaired, and it's there, like,
Sure.
you know, it pained me greatly to pay $3,000 for an alternator at Minuteman, but nobody else could put it in, because you need their computer to set the voltage when it's done.
okay. The only other question goes back to the performance bonds. I don't know what the procedure is, being fairly new on the board, but especially when you're having a first payment due upon a deposit when no work has been completed, do we have a necessity to have a performance bond in case the contractor negates the work? And that applies to the next resolution also.
I guess I would just ask, do you ask these contractors whether they're bonded and insured on their work? Or do you get anything from them? That is, it's a good practice to, we don't require anything because we don't have bylaws at this point, but if it's a significant amount, you usually put on an insurance policy as an additional insured, and if it's a smaller amount, then you want to know if they're bonded and insured. So,
On the, I haven't asked for a performance bond.
right.
In the past. I have asked to be named additional insured in the past for anybody that's doing work in the station.
So is there an amount, I'm just trying to help with the questioning, is there an amount, a minimum amount where you would ask to be put on as an additional insured?
Usually, when it comes here, it's over 2,500. That's a significant amount, and it will follow that I want to be additional insured as I award the contract.
Okay, does that help, Commissioner?
But I can ask for a performance bond at the same time. I'm sure it won't be.
Yeah, the additional insurance, like you're talking workers' comp insurance.
Yeah, are we talking two different issues here?
No, I know, I think a performance bond would actually add cost to the district, because we're just gonna pay for it. That's what happens. But putting on as an additional insured covers us. I know.
I think Dana's question is the performance bond, if someone goes out and gets insurance, which they add to our bill, so if they fail in doing the job halfway through, then we can claim an insurance. The other question that was brought up, the other issue that was just touched on was insurance liability-wise for workman's comp. I think we're trying to cross two, because that's what it was said here a moment ago. I think, Dana, are you saying a performance bond? So if they do half the job and they bolt and they leave?
Well, I'm looking at the next one, I'm just jumping ahead, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but the amount should make no difference at this point in conversation.
Well, I'm just
And
saying.
then down the road, if we want to do performance bonds, then we have to decide what amount that we have the contractor get the performance bond. They'll get the bond, but they're going to charge it back to us.
Right.
Yeah, the only concern would be like the second one that's coming up next, like it has an amount of $98, almost $10,000 deposit before they even start work. Suppose that company goes south, no matter what company it is, and do we eat that?
No, I would think the chief would have an agreement that when they get that money, is that the product would be delivered. So we have the product on the property, correct, chief?
Correct.
I think with the
When the product is delivered, then we give him a partial payment.
Correct.
And then he gets his next payment after the job is finished. Now, if it was a
In operation.
$300,000 job, it'd be in increments of 3 or 4 payments. But right now, he's gonna deliver the equipment, the
He's
product.
going to deliver the equipment and the initial, I don't want to misspeak. The initial payment will be $2,600. Then when the job is complete and it is operational, we'll give them a payment for $3,968.
And having dealt with this company before on several occasions, not only on the Station 1, but he's worked at Station 4. He's a reputable business that's been in business for many, many years. It's not just somebody that just came about, correct, Chief?
Yeah, he's worked at Station 4 and Station 5.
5.
I don't believe I don't believe Dana's implying anything about their reputation
No,
or their credibility. I think basically what he's trying to do is protect the taxpayers of the town of Cumberland.
Right.
It's a valid concern, which I concur with.
I understand that, but my understanding, the feasibility of getting a performance bond is big numbers.
Right.
Not, and this is not a small number, I don't want you to take it out of contents, but we're talking about $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 jobs, $1,000 jobs, like building a building, or the town, in its case of paving roads, there has to be a performance bond. You just don't get out, I don't even think a company or an insurance company would even give you a bond for
Right.
It's $5,000 or $10,000.
So I think it comes back to, I mean, you said the number was irrelevant in theory, but I think that in application, it becomes a number. For example, I remember when a chief in another district ordered a fire truck from a reputable company. Chief, the Manville fire truck? What was that company? They ordered the fire truck, a ladder, $800,000 truck. The chief had the sense to buy the insurance in case the company went south. Well, guess what? The first time in 110 years, they went south.
Right, but that's a big number. It's not a $5,000 number.
Exactly. So when do we...
You know, most
so when-
insurance companies are going to say, we don't want to bother with you
I
with a
agree.
$5,000 number.
So there are a couple issues that I was concerned about, and I agree with the commissioner. I didn't know the chief was putting these out to bids. That's good to know. You know, for this $2,500, I was unaware that you were getting 3 bids for any expenditure above that cutoff amount. That's great. It's excellent.
We've been trying to get 3 bids for all the work, but we've been struggling because there's so much work around. These jobs aren't large numbers, and companies are just looking at it and saying, yeah, we'll be there to give you a quote, and then just don't show up because they're getting awarded contracts a lot more bigger profit for them.
Sure. Is there, Madam Chair, if your opinion is there, the solicitor dealing with the towns, is there a number where you want the full committee or individual subcommittees to have the chief provide those bids? I mean,
The town of Cumberland has a professional services committee. They have a pretty lengthy process, but that's for professional services only. They do have the process that the chief is using is similar to the town. For the town, it's different because Public Works, they get to spend a little more before getting the bids, and for other things, it's a little less. I'd have to look, but he's in line with, and particularly getting quotes for anything should be done, getting quotes, so.
No, I mean, my question is more, should the chief just report these to the appropriate subcommittee first, the capital improvements committee or the, what subcommittee?
I mean, that's not typical. I mean, a lot of this stuff is, sometimes he's already spent the money because it's an emergency, right? I mean, a lot of times it's a truck repair or something.
A truck repair would probably be spent before the meeting, but this work
that's
is
something
forthcoming.
So your question really falls to what do you want in your bylaws? So as we go through the finance procedures, which we're doing now, that would be something, what is your minimum level of getting quotes? And then what is your minimum level for actually going out to bid? Advertising, bringing in the bids, potentially interviewing people, depending on what the project is. These numbers are relatively small. But once you get over, you know, well, the 21,000 isn't that small, but once you get over a certain amount, that's when you go out to bid for an actual bid where you advertise and all that. But that would be developed through the bylaws subcommittee.
Yeah, we have a bylaws meeting on May...
Next week.
Next week.
Next
The
week.
4th. So we're whittling through this, and it's coming out fair, and we're speaking with the chief to see what his input is on the bid bond and performance bond, especially if we go forward with stations and apparatus.
Yep.
So we'll get that spelled in to the bylaws. Thank you.
Okay.
So, I don't even remember if we approved.
So the discussion is all set, and now we're voting on the motion to accept by Commissioner Ashenbaum. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Champagne. All in favor of accepting the amended resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay. Resolution 2017-09, authorizing the finance director to pay, is it Gillette?
Gillette Contracting.
Thank you. In the amount not to exceed $21,500. Gillette Contracting has been contracted to replace the roofs at Station 5. The current roofs are over 30 years old and showing signs of the need to replace. Funding for this expense will be from budget line 6310, capital improvements. Now therefore be it resolved by the Cumberland Fire District as follows. Chief Kenneth Finley is authorized to manage and expend funds as noted in the Gillette contracting proposal in the amount not to exceed $21,500.
Madam Chair,
Solicitor.
I'm going to anticipate that you should amend line 5, instead of saying authorizing the finance director, et cetera, to authorizing Chief Finley is authorized to manage and expend funds as noted in the Gillette Contracting, Inc. proposal in an amount not to exceed $21,500.
Is there a motion on the table to amend this resolution?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Scullin. Second by Commissioner Santoro.
Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you. Second by,
Just a point of order. I mean, first you have to, Ms. Morris made a statement. First, my interpretation of Robert's rules, the whole ordinance, make an amendment to the whole ordinance, go back to discussion on the whole ordinance after that. I think we're going backwards here. We're amending it before getting to the whole ordinance as an ordinance.
is there a motion on the table to accept this resolution?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Scullin.
All right, Champagne.
Commissioner Champagne.
Just the one
Sorry.
time Jim's not talking.
That I'll second.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Commissioner Santoro seconds. Is there a discussion?
Discussion. Motion to amend, as Solicitor Morris stated.
Second.
Motion to amend by Commissioner Champagne and seconded by Commissioner Santoro.
Can we have some discussion on the whole
Is there a
issue?
discussion?
Well, can we just discuss?
Before we go too far in this resolution,
Yes.
because we might have another amendment to this resolution,
That's true.
is, Chief, it's very, having experienced some knowledge in roofing systems, are you safe leaving this authorization by us at $21,500? Because you may have decking that has to be replaced, sheathing, as stated below, which is all extra. Now, we won't know that, or you won't know that, till they rip the roof open. But if once they rip the roof open, you spend that money, then we're only gonna pay $21,500, because that's all you're authorized to spend at this moment.
That is a possibility. Deputy McCabe was on both roofs with the with both contractors in this case. They both seemed to feel that the deck boards were in good shape on both roofs. There's no gravel under the flat roof, which would have been an extremely more laborious process to get the gravel out. I mean, there's always the possibility of some additional cost when you tear a roof off. You know, if it stays at if it adopts at 21.5 and there's overage, I'll have to come back and ask for the overage.
Well, we can't, are we better to not to exceed a certain amount of money because of the unexpected expense that could occur once everything is stripped back? To assume that we're walking on it and it might be good, we don't know. I mean, the whole project is because the roof is leaking.
If you wanted to go to 25,000, I would feel very comfortable at 25,000.
Because I think that it's, in this type of scenario, it's a hidden, an unknown. You just can't rip the roof open and say, well, we're gonna put it back and we're gonna wait to see the board approves it or not. So I think at this point, we should consider just not to exceed 25,000.
Not to exceed 21, you want to increase it to 25, so you can make that amendment.
You think the foot?
And I would say, at both lines 5 and 21, just changing the number to 25,000.
Will 25,000 be enough?
Would that be enough, Chief? You think?
I believe so.
As a buffer?
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Jones.
on our station tours early on, we toured all our facilities, And at Station 5, it was pointed out that the old schoolhouse is in bad shape roof-wise, and that's under our parameter, correct? Is that included with this repair work, or we
No,
not?
no, it is not. That's a whole different, that's not in this budget. Before I do that roof, I have to get some trees out of the way so that I just don't ruin the next roof that goes on. This is for the original station roof, which is the hip roof, and the addition that they put on in, I believe it was 1988,
For the ladder.
for the ladder truck, which is a flat roof. That rubber coating is pretty baked, and from 88 till, in the 30 years that it's been up there, there's been improvements in that type of roofing system, so
26.
it's time. It is showing water
25 or 26.
infiltrating into the bay, so this is something that really needs to be done sooner than next budget.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. That'll be a separate issue on the schoolhouse in the future.
The schoolhouse is a whole other issue that I'm gonna have to deal with during the summer.
Yeah.
To get some ideas as to how we can get it dried out, because the amount of moss, as you've seen on that roof during the station tour, will just come back and will just eat up any shingle that we put on there.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Question?
Commissioner Santoro.
Chief, did you get any other bids?
yes, I did. I have another bid from Wiseman Roofing, which was the only other person that showed up to offer a bid. We had another contractor that just looked at it and said that it was too big for him to handle. And Wiseman did it in two, just deal with me for a minute. He came up to $25,400, and there's disclaimers in his bid about any additional work that would have to be done as far as carpentry or additional plumbing work for. See, on the flat roof, there's 2 air conditioning units, and Gillette has it in his proposal to take care of the air conditioning units with his people. Wiseman said that's an additional cost to us. Being 2,000 or over 2,000 higher initially, and the additional work to get a HVAC person in has led me to recommend Gillette Contracting.
Okay. This is not going to interrupt the firefighters, the service, or anything like that? Is that gonna
No,
just-
Gillette is trying, if we approve this tonight, he would like to be done by the end of May, so that the HVAC would be reconnected and would not hinder residential living for the firefighters at all.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we need to vote on a resolution, an amended resolution that changes Finance Director to Chief Finley and changes the amount to exceed to $25,000. Is there a motion to accept?
Can we do them both at once? You want 2 different amendments, or can we do them both at once at the same time?
The chair read the 2 together.
Yes.
Is that okay? That's, motion second.
Motion to approve
The
by,
amendment?
motion to approve the amendment.
Second.
Okay.
Third.
Approve, motion by Commissioner Ashenbaugh. And seconded by Commissioner Scullin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Champagne not present, so it passes 6-0. Is there anything else we need to vote on for this resolution? Are we good? All right. Excellent. Final resolution, number 2017, number 10, authorizing the tax collector.
You can vote. Yeah.
Oh, we just did the amendment.
We just did the amendment. Oy, oy, oy. Okay.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the entire resolution.
Motion to approve the entire resolution, 2017-09. as amended. And who? Motion by Commissioner Scullin. Seconded by Commissioner Hogan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. How many motions have we made tonight? Okay, final one. 2017-10, authorizing the tax collector to uncollectible tax sale fees.
Something wrong with that.
We're missing a word here.
Oh, sorry.
To abate.
Okay. Authorizing the tax collector to abate uncollectible tax sale fees in the amount of $300. The tax collector has determined that the property at 348 Scott Road has been taken by the town of Cumberland through tax sale and is now a tax-exempt property. Now therefore be it resolved by the Cumberland Fire District as follows: the tax collector is authorized to abate as shown in the attached reports. Do we need a motion
To amend that line
to
five.
amend?
Make a motion to add abate in front of uncollectible on line 5.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve as amended by Commissioner Ashenbo and seconded by Commissioner Scullin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Opposed? Passes 7-0. Are we good? No, I met with resolutions, yes. Last item on the agenda, discussion regarding used apparatus by Chief Finley.
Well, I think we'd want to table this till we do a little more study on this before we bring it before the board.
I fully concur with Commissioner Ashenbo. There was some discussion forwarded to me. We looked into some vehicles, but we quickly found that we need to do more research and probably retrofit one of our current vehicles to see how this process would work before we expend any funds for a 17-year-old vehicle.
Okay.
Can we just talk about what the intent of this is?
Yes, there is a motion on the table.
There is?
Second.
There was a motion?
Yes. Yeah. No, we haven't.
He seconded it, yeah, that's all.
So it's unclear what the case is not. We just need a little more study on it.
Right.
So can we talk about that in minimal?
No, there's a motion on the table. Right.
So that, all right, so that fails.
No, he seconded it, so the motion is
Yes,
seconded.
motion on the table.
Have a discussion.
Why not?
Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert, so if we can't discuss something that says,
No, we cannot discuss it. Once there is a motion. Second.
so next is new business.
You can vote against it.
Is there a new business section?
You may get the majority of no votes.
All in favor of the motion to table this, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. Public comment.
How about commissioner comment? Should I go walk over there and ask the question? I just want to ask the intent of that vehicle. What we're talking about trying to work towards.
We cannot, it's
It's not on the agenda, so we can't talk
public
about
comment
it. Thank
section.
you.
Is there any public comment? Before we end this, I would like to apologize for my earlier behavior. I apologize, I was out of line. Motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion by Commissioner Scullin, seconded by?
Second.
Commissioner Ashenbo. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?